Hey, Steven, this is Eneasz.
Hey, Eneasz, this is Steven.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I hear that the We Want More Superman thing is all wrapped up. And by here, I mean I listened to the last episode, and I was sad that there wasn't any more.
I was going to say, you'd better clarify that you listened to it. So,
Yes, I did.
Alas, it is done. We tentatively have planned another show, but I think the release date will probably be, release date and location to be determined. The name, unfortunately, the placeholder he seemed to like, because he was like, no, I think I like the We Want More vibe. And
no, is it going to be We Want Dick?
Basically, I told him
nice
because that's what he. All right, so I was like, well, if we're doing that, the obvious guess would be We Want More Dick, and because it's the author's Phil Dick, right?
Yeah.
And he thought that was hilarious and said, no, we're doing that. And I was like, I don't want to, but it's your show. We do whatever you want. So it might be called We Want More Dick.
I'm not sure that Moore is still doing work at this point.
That's true.
Because Philip K. Dick is not really known for, being a rationalist writer, but I guess it fits the naming convention.
We'll see what becomes with that. I'd like a less ridiculous name, but we'll have to see. Anyway, what's this named? What are we doing here?
Hey, okay, so I originally, when you started up doing the We Want More thing, you said that it would be great to do something with me, but there was nothing at the time that I was super excited about to analyze like that. And while you were in the middle of doing that with Brian, I started reading Worth the Candle, and I was maybe 15 chapters in when I said, oh my God, this is the thing that I want to do with Steven. And I have pitched this to you. And what did you say when you heard me pitch this to you?
Some version of hell yes.
Yes, that was basically it. So we are going to be doing the We've Got Worms / We Want More thing, except for Worth the Candle, which is Alexander Wales's still in progress web fiction. That is hard to summarize, and I'm going to be spending this intro episode just talking to you about it and setting it up so that we can get right into things in our first episode next week.
Yeah, I mean, the whatever amount of intro you think I need. I mean, so here's the 3 things I know about it. 1, it's huge.
Yes, currently it's about a little more than twice the size of Methods of Rationality, and it's not done yet.
Twice the size of Methods of Rationality?
Yes, it should be. I think it's more than 2/3 done at this point. So
okay.
In the end, it'll be about 3 times the size of Methods of Rationality.
Well, so, I mean, if we want to cover it at the same pace as we did MOR, we'll be looking at 3 years.
I'm thinking that sounds reasonable, yes.
All right. Splitting up pace-wise will be up to you as far as hosting stuff. So we'll be the one pretending, who doesn't know what's happening. And then, of course, you'll be able to read ahead when chapters come out, and I won't. Right. I strongly anticipate that at any release schedule, is it on a schedule or is it as a, when he wants to release it basis?
Currently, it's a when he wants to release it basis. He usually releases in large chunks. The last release was, I think, 6 or 7 chapters all at once, which, it was a large chunk of writing. That was obviously the work of several months, and he just released it all in one day so that we would have a single arc to read instead of being, left on the edge of our seats for weeks at a time between each chapter.
Right on. Yeah, I wonder, this will be an interesting experience too, because there hasn't been one like this where basically everything that happens because you're 2/3 through. Mm-hmm. But you won't have the full story context to talk about from the beginning in mysterious, non-spoiler ways. So that's interesting.
And I also plan to, because I started, when I realized that I wanted to do this with you, because I was so excited about the story, I started taking notes as I was reading. So there's going to be a bunch of times when I may say something like, when I was reading this is what I was thinking. And that does not necessarily mean that this is what happens. It's just going to be what my guess was at the time. So, I will tell you that don't think of that as a spoiler because I did not know what was going to be happening when I wrote that down.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I did the same thing with with the last 2 We Want More shows where when I first read this, I was thinking this. Yeah. So the first thing I know is that it's a big book, bigger than I thought. So I didn't quite know that. Second thing, I know that Alexander Wales wrote it / is writing it, which means I'm guaranteed to have a fun time reading it. And third thing, and the thing that was the most the strongest selling point for doing a show out of it was that you wanted to read it again for the sake of the show. And
Yes,
for people who aren't in the know, Eneasz doesn't read things twice for the most part.
that is true. I have read, I think, 3 or 4 books twice in my life as far as I can remember, and one book I've read 3 times because I loved it so much.
Which book was that?
That was Vellum by Hal Duncan. I actually have a blog post about, how it's really great, although it's also sort of a esoteric niche kind of thing. I don't think like most people will enjoy it. But I wrote up a thing about why I enjoyed it. So, people who want to read that can decide if they think they'll enjoy it as well. It's full of not just gods in the general sense. It's literally about the Christian God, and it's kind of got multiple worlds, and it's a neat story.
Well, the author wrote it specifically for people like you. Then it sounds that's awesome.
Yeah, well, and that's the.
I'd probably get a kick out of it, but I know that sort of genre especially appeals to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Enough of things that are not written by Alexander Wales.
Exactly. We are here to discuss. Obviously, well, I guess not obviously yet, but we're not calling this "We Want More Candles."
No.
What is this show going to be called?
It's not the worst name, honestly, but I was thinking as a reference to something that is in the novel, in the story. I don't know. Does it count as a novel?
Story works.
Sure.
Stories of any length, right?
Yeah, there's a repeating beat that, yes, stories of any length. There's a repeating beat in there where the main character is told on more than one occasion that not everything is a clue. So I was thinking we could call this Not Everything is a Clue, because turns out there's some things that aren't clues.
Well, this just sounds like it's set up to troll me. I'm very excited.
It'll be fun. And then once we actually read that, we can be like, that's the name of the show. And I would totally insert a pitch meeting clip right here, except that is your thing.
I mean, you're welcome to do it. The only work involved is rewatching pitch meetings, and then like basically if they're on in the background, I would hear like a funny quote, just like make a note on my phone of like this one at this time.
Oh, that's super smart.
But I mean, unless you're gonna watch a bunch of pitch meetings, I don't think that'll necessarily have to be a part of the show. So,
have you gone back and watched any of the really early pitch meetings lately?
I'm sure I have seen the earliest ones. They're not as good. Like they were more like they were funny, but they were more in like the cinema sins, kind of like ripping it apart rather than just having fun.
Yeah, well, not just that. I mean, it was kind of that too, but I think the really big difference was that he didn't have his comedic persona yet. So he was just kind of trying to deliver jokes in a sort of matter-of-fact way. And like you said, yeah, sort of a ripping it apart way. And he hadn't yet discovered the whole really lean into it and be like, yeah. So you have a movie for me?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. He really developed his persona.
Yeah.
All right. So what do I need to know about Worth the Candle before we get started?
Let me pull up my notes here. But as I'm doing that, a thing that I've been thinking of over the last week, what do you consider a guilty pleasure? Like what would be your idea of what that means?
For me, my first go-to example, I think I was asked this like a year ago, and the answer jumped right out at me, like watching reruns. I've seen most of the shows I've seen more than once. Like they're good background relaxation stuff, and I feel,
so that's
I guess
the
guilty part of it comes out of the fact that like I could be enjoying new content, but no, I'd rather watch Santa Clarita Diet for the 4th time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think I for most of my life I never really believed in guilty pleasures. Like I thought that if you enjoy something, just enjoy the damn thing. Like don't feel guilty about it. That's awful. It's no one should feel guilty for doing something they enjoy that isn't hurting anyone.
That is truly my vibe as well. I was answering if I was forced to answer the question.
Yeah. But like, I mean, I lived that. Like some people would say, they watch these bad movies because they're bad. And I was like, I don't understand that. I watch bad movies that other people call bad because I think they're good and I like them. And then I came across Lit RPG and I finally understood like on a visceral level what it means to have a guilty pleasure. So have you heard of lit RPG?
Rings a bell.
It's a moderately new genre. It is what my first exposure to it was in Fallout Equestria, which is as it sounds like, a combination My Little Pony Fallout fanfic. And as I was reading it, like it takes place in the world of Fallout with My Little Pony characters, but like at the end of the first chapter, like it's just playing out like a normal fanfic, right? And then at the end of the first chapter, the main character, gains a level and gets a perk, just like as a footnote at the bottom. I was like, and as like you read more and more, she keeps gaining more levels and like gaining skills and perks and stuff. And I was like, this is really kind of neat. It was fun reading something that wasn't like, it wasn't a novelization of a game like a lot of D&D novels were, or like Record of Lodoss were. It was almost like taking the idea of a game being the real world literally. Like it was just a normal story, but that had this layer of RPG game elements layered on top of it. And like it was fine for a My Little Pony Fallout fanfic crossover. I didn't think anything of it. But then, well, as it turns out, there's a lot of people who enjoy reading things who also really enjoy playing RPG video games. And so it sort of became a blow-up genre in the sci-fi fantasy world. I don't know if it still is, because due to COVID, I haven't been in any conventions for quite a while. But in the last LitCon that I was at before COVID, I was talking to an author, one of these like working mid-list authors who, you know, isn't rich or anything, but puts out 2-3 books every year and manages to pay bills with it. And yeah, the big thing that they were doing now was writing in the lit RPG genre, because that's what was selling. And it just felt, I kind of felt embarrassed for the genre and embarrassed for enjoying when reading it, because it felt so not literature to have video games.
Unsophisticated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I read and I don't know if it continued again. I know that it went through like a long hiatus, and I think he did another book, like by book. So it was a Harry Potter fan fiction called Harry Potter and the Natural 20.
Oh, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, and like the main character is transported to Hogwarts from a Dungeons and Dragons universe, and so like he thinks of like, and there like he has ways to like cheese experience points by like I don't know, some setting up some automata. He can't use Hogwarts magic. Salt is very prevalent in our world and very expensive in D&D, so he was able to do something with that. But like the conceit of the story was that like he operates on hit points and experience, and so where everyone else doesn't, and that was like the funny part.
Yeah.
So like I think at some point he comes out of some battle, but he like had just leveled up, so he's fine. Like he leveled up during the fight, and random shit like that. So is this is Worth the Candle a lit RPG?
It is in fact a lit RPG. And when I first started reading it, and I got to the end of the first chapter, and I realized it was a lit RPG, like. I was on the one hand, I was kind of disappointed, because I was like, oh no, this is I don't want to say like lower class, because I don't want to sound like a snobbish elitist asshole or anything, you know, but it was a personal embarrassment of mine. But it was written so goddamn well, I kept reading it. And after like, 10 chapters, I got to the point where I think it was the same way that I never felt embarrassed about playing video games, but I know a slightly older generation of people who like still are fighting the torch, carrying the torch of video games are art. And to me, it's just like, yeah, obviously they're art. I mean, not all video games, but they're a legit form of art. But these people like still get their panties in a bunch over that. And it reminds me of a lot of like how the early cinephiles would have to carry the torch that movies can be art as well. They aren't just mass entertainment for the masses. And now that that's accepted and it's respectable and everything, no one doubts that. But the original people like had a thing to pick with that. And when I read Worth the Candle, I felt like the same way for lit RPG. I was like, oh my God, this is the good breakout example of this genre that that makes it art and makes it okay to not be embarrassed. And then I was like really embarrassed for myself. I have some hangups, dude.
I mean, we all have them. Like I wasn't like forthcoming with my involvement with the rationality community for the first few years. Didn't talk about cryonics, even if the subject or an adjacent subject came up.
So you were kind of like embarrassed to be part of the community thing?
I think I just didn't. I was not ready to engage with like arguments about it or something. So it wasn't quite embarrassed. It was just more like it was a similar hang up. But like as far as coming to realize that whatever form of expression can be art, like, I mean, my first fan fiction was Harry Potter and Methods of Rationality. And so my previous associations with fan fiction, where I knew this person who wrote like whatever the fan fiction is called, where characters are constantly having sex, for the TV show Glee. And so that was literally my only association. And I thought it was just a bunch of weird perverts who got off on reading stories about minors having sex. And so like, it, not to say that it couldn't be done tastefully, maybe it could, but like it was not my cup of tea. And
that's usually called slash.
Yeah, so like slash fic, I guess, but like my other hang up was that I'm pretty sure the characters in Glee are in high school. And so unless they're all over 18 somehow, I never read any of the stuff this person put out. So
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, it was like that was my like, oh, that's fan fiction. And then Julia Galef recommended Methods of Rationality, and I was like, oh no, this is fan fiction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, whatever, like I'm with you. I think like anyone who gives anyone shit for things they enjoy needs to politely shut the hell up, right? Like life's hard enough, things are dreary enough as it is. If anyone's finding enjoyment for something that doesn't hurt people, then just kindly fuck off, right?
Exactly. I mean, half the reason I hope to someday be a successful sci-fi writer is so that I can shove it in my dad's face and be like, see? Because I was ridiculed often for reading science fiction when I was young by my parent. I was going to say parents, but that's not true. My mom was like, whatever, he's reading. But it was my dad that was like, science fiction? God, wasting your time on that trash.
That's silly.
I know.
We didn't have a lot of books in the house when I was a kid, so like I think they just encouraged me to read whatever I wanted.
Yeah. And I don't know. I somehow like developed a rebellious streak, so I never really got that upset about. I never got embarrassed about reading science fiction, and somehow like Lit RPG just reawakened all that. But now I don't feel embarrassed about that anymore, and I am very happy about it. And yeah, I figured I would start with an introduction of, Lit RPG is a thing, and this is what you are going to be getting when you are reading this.
Great. Yeah, I guess like I said, my only point of context might not be quite the same thing because it's not in an RPG universe. It's an RPG character in a non-RPG environment. So this will be a new take for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my only question is, I'm assuming it's Alexander Wales. Is it rationalist fiction?
Gosh, that's a good question.
If the answer is not a semi-obvious yes, then suddenly I became less excited about doing this for the next 3 years.
It's a very strong yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's just that I keep having trouble defining exactly what rationalist fiction is, even though I know we've done an episode about it on BBC.
Me too. Yeah. I think you even brought up that governor or whatever congressperson quote. It's like pornography. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, it is absolutely rationalist fiction.
Good.
I don't know how Alexander Wales could write anything that isn't rationalist fiction. Maybe
that's what I was thinking.
Tried really hard, yeah. But
I'm sure he could put out garbage if he put his mind to it, but
yeah. But I mean, at some point, people start asking, what's the difference between rationalist fiction and just like good fiction with complex characters in a strongly thought out world? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not so much concerned on the like, where do I draw the definition line? It's more like, do I get a rationalist boner while reading this? And if the answer is yes, then that's what counts.
Yeah. I
think I even mentioned this on one of the other shows with Brian that like, as far as I'm concerned, I think Mythbusters basically counts, except for the fact that it's nonfiction. Like, I get that same sort of sense of enjoyment, and like they do like really creative approaches to solving the problems they have, and I'm like, that's so fucking awesome. Like as long as I think that every few chapters at the very least, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, you're gonna like this then.
All right, I'm stoked.
Cool. Okay. I also was wanting to pick your brain on 2 points. The first one being, have you played D&D before? Or any other tabletop role-playing game?
I played a campaign, or I guess, I don't know, half a dozen or 10 sessions of, what's that D&D ripoff?
Pathfinder?
That's the one.
Okay.
And then I'm in a campaign now of Masks, which I think is probably like less well known, but it's got a different kind of vibe. It's less about like, here's my experience points and it's my turn. It's more about like character interaction and stuff, but you still have like the ability to level up and you still have unique moves and that sort of stuff.
So I guess the question is, you're familiar with like the group dynamics of having a bunch of people sitting around a table with sheets of paper playing these sorts of games?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That will make enjoying this book much, much easier. I'm not sure someone who's never played any sort of role-playing game would get quite as much out of it. I think they would still like it, but like if you've played role-playing games in the past, it'll be more significant.
I find that so confusing, having no idea what you're talking about. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, would you say someone who enjoys games like, I mean, really any game with an RPG element, like you mentioned Fallout, you know, you fall around, you walk around, you get perks, you get experience, you find better weapons, that sort of stuff. Is that a complementary experience that might lend itself to, if you enjoy Fallout, you'll enjoy this?
Yes, but it's not complete. Like if you haven't actually sat down in a room with people with papers and dice, the video game RPG isn't a full substitute for understanding where this is coming from.
Okay. I mean, to be clear, we did it with laptops and oh no, we actually had real dice. Someone brought enough for everybody. So, but before then and now we're playing Masks remotely on our laptops, and I use a dice roller online. So if real dice are a requirement, I have very little experience.
And honestly, come to think of it, I think even just like sitting around and playing board games is close enough that people would generally get it. And you've done that like with me because I was there for 15 weeks.
That's right. You dominated the globe.
Yeah. I guess this is pretty much a universal experience nowadays for people. Maybe if you're a complete sports nerd who only ever does sports, you wouldn't get it, but
well, if you do fantasy sports, you might. I mean, you don't have the level up and perks factor, but you do have like the, oh, look, this person got 2 kicks that put them up this much more valuable or something.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm guessing. I don't know exactly how fantasy leagues work. Everything I know about fantasy football comes from the TV show The League.
Is it a good show?
I mean, it's not great. It was funny. I mean, I watched all 7 seasons of it, but like it wasn't I can't, unless you're bored, I won't recommend it.
Okay. Wow, you must have been really bored for 7 seasons worth.
I mean, I watch a lot of stuff, you know, not all of it good, so.
Do you just like have it playing in the background or?
I know we watched it. I mean, like, I guess when you ask if something is good, you've got a high bar.
Yes, because I don't watch a lot of things.
Right. So, like, because I'm trying to make you watch a couple of very specific things, I can't say this was good, you should watch it, because I don't want you to bump this on the list. Gotcha. For anyone who enjoyed It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia will enjoy this show. And that show's been running for 15 years, so people clearly are enjoying it.
Is that still going? Always Sunny?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, it's hardcore.
Yeah. All right. So, D&D, lit RPG, guilty pleasures.
The other thing you had 2 things to pick my brain about.
Yeah. The other thing was, okay, how do you enjoy metafiction? Or yes.
Let's see.
Like how meta do you like things to get?
If this wasn't the end of a long workday, I was going to make a joke about like, okay, well here you and I are talking about a podcast. We're talking about a podcast that's going to be about a book that is about metafic. Yes. And there's a joke in there somewhere, but I can't think of it. So give me an example. Like, I mean,
WandaVision.
Oh, I mean, then yeah.
Okay.
So you're saying where, like, and I don't want to spoil anything for WandaVision, so skip 30 seconds if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't seen it, pause it for 3 hours and watch all of WandaVision, then come back.
Yes.
So what, in episode 5 or 6, they Petrov is recast as the guy from Kick-Ass, who was in Kick-Ass.
Mm-hmm.
With so was the regular Petrov. Quicksilver is faster to say, but what's fun thing about this guy is he played Quicksilver in X-Men.
Yeah.
And recasting with that meta level is the only the kind of thing you can do if you're fucking Disney, who just bought Fox Studios and now owns the X-Men. And so they were able to cast this other Quicksilver to play Quicksilver in a way that was confusing to the characters. And even in the episode when they're trick-or-treating, the kid says kick-ass, like one of her kids says kick-ass. And she's like, kick-ass? And because the kid swore, but to us, it's a nod that, yes, both Quicksilvers were in the movie Kick-Ass.
Right.
So that shit's hilarious, and I fucking love it.
Okay. Then good, because this is, I think, the most meta piece of metafiction I've read ever, which is what really just set me off on the I have to analyze this with someone, and that someone should be Steven, because gosh darn it, he's awesome.
I'll do my best. I mean, like Methods of Rationality had its meta moments where it would talk about Harry Potter, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I'm assuming this is a level above that if it's the most meta thing you've ever read.
It is indeed, yes.
Okay.
It's, I mean, this tends to happen to art over time. I don't know. I've been thinking about it for a while. It seems to me that art is generally about what people experience the most in their lives. There's a lot of art that's about falling in love, because everyone has falling in love a lot in their lives and it's important to them. There's art about friendship and about loss. And, if you're in some professions like military, you tend to have a lot more art that's about violence or survival. And in our society, a lot of everybody's life, even on every single day basis, is just consuming art. So nowadays, a lot of art is about other art, And I mean, that's always kind of been the case. Art's always been a conversation that calls back to previous works and builds on them and comments on them. But it's just been the cycle, I think, has been getting faster in the past 100 years or so, and been accelerating even more since the internet. And like we're getting to a point where the meta commentary on art is getting pretty intense, and I am really enjoying it. And this falls into that genre, in my opinion, where it is art that is art in its own right, while also being a commentary about art and being a commentary on commentaries about art.
Okay, what's fun about that is I'm basically picturing Abed from Community.
Yes, yes, exactly.
I'm picturing him writing a book or making a movie about his time in the study club.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Community was amazing. There was, and the level of self-awareness that only Abed could have. Like, it's as fourth wall breaking as you can get without actually breaking the wall. Like, It doesn't go full Deadpool. But there's one, like in season 4 or 5, where they're at Pierce's house because he's stuck in his panic room, and Abed finds the secret surveillance room, and he's watching everybody like they're a TV show, and he's watching this, and then he looks bored, and he's like, "I remember when the show was about a community college," and it's delightful. Okay, so I'm sold. You got me on WandaVision and Community, so.
All right, then that is what we are in for as we are going forward, and I am super excited about it.
Yeah, and I mean, the only things that kind of evolve with time are like the dynamics for how the whatever show interactions run, or like the host interactions run. But we've been doing podcasting together for a while, so I think we've got that pretty okay. And then like the pacing, so I mean, I'll do it for 3 years. I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but
if we start feeling like it's getting too slow, we can totally speed it up.
Well, so that's the thing is, and that'll be determined something by like our fatigue level and how long the episodes are, right? I mean, if we do X number of words or, whatever chapters, and it turns out that the episodes are consistently 45 minutes, I feel like we can grind another, twice that amount, right?
Absolutely.
So that leaves us with the question of what episodes are we doing, or what chapters are we doing first?
I figured we should ease in and for the first one, just do the first 2 chapters, because partly I'm thinking with it being, a whole new thing from the very start, we'll probably have a bunch of things to talk about in the beginning before we start having to consume a lot every week.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And the first 2 chapters are still 8,000 words, so it's not like it's nothing.
Right on. Yeah. All right, so chapters 1 and 2, and the show is called Not Everything is a Clue. Hey, that rhymes.
Oh, yeah, yes, it does.
Well, let's see. Anything else we got to cover then?
A few minor things. The first thing is, I guess I don't want to hype this too much, because whenever someone is too excited about something, it never lives up to expectations. This is specifically something that feels like it was a missile aimed directly at everything I love. So I personally love the hell out of it. It might not be as awesome for everyone else, but it's Alexander Wales. It's Alexander Wales after he's had several years to refine his craft. So it's like even better than the things he's written before. Like this is good shit. I think all our listeners are going to enjoy this, even if they don't spaz out over it like I have been.
I re-listened to the interview you did with him after you finished recording the audiobook and after we finished doing the podcast for Metropolitan Man. And I think he mentioned like releasing on a schedule is important for serial fiction if that was your thing. And I know that Worth the Candle is very popular, and if it doesn't release on a schedule, it remains popular because it's maintained an attractive following to people.
Yes.
And so that speaks a lot to its why did I just blank on the word? A lot that speaks a lot to its Quality. Thank you. I was going to say goodness? Sure. Question mark?
It's another word for quality. Yeah. I don't know why we have so many words that mean the same thing. Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We have a Patreon. I'm not sure how much Patreon support we're actually going to get, because I assume a lot of our listeners here are people who came from the Bayesian Conspiracy, and that already has a large Patreon that a lot of people can, a lot of people do subscribe to. So I don't want to be like, hey, if you've already giving us more money, give us more money. But I've also heard you should never turn away people who are trying to give you money. And, who knows, maybe we'll get listeners from the wider world eventually. So there is a Patreon that is up with this show as well. And since Alexander Wales wrote this thing that we're all going to be looking into, we are giving him a 15% cut of everything that we pull in. But again, it's also not a great way to support Alexander Wales, because he has his own Patreon. If you really love the story, you can support him directly, and he gets 100% of that stuff. So this is more like, if you like our stuff and want to give us money, you can, and we'll pass some of that on to him as thanks.
Cool. Yeah, I know that we set up the Patreon for Bayesian Conspiracy because I think it was after the second or third person asked, like, do you guys have a PayPal or something? Mm-hmm. And we're like, oh, I guess if people feel like it, sure. One thing, and we also suck at this on the Bayesian Conspiracy about like rewards. And that's something that, either, I guess I'm assuming isn't decided yet. I haven't seen the Patreon page. Like other than getting the warm fuzzies of supporting a show they like, do people get anything?
No.
No. All right.
Maybe someday they will. All they get right now is fake internet levels.
Perfect.
You get 1 level per dollar that you spend per month. So.
Well, right on. I don't know really what else to say other than I'm happy I can hang out. I don't have anything to do. I just meant like I don't, other than like wanting to get started reading it, I don't really know what else to say or do. I mean,
there is one other thing.
Yeah, and take your time. Ask all the things. I'm just out of stuff.
Oh, this isn't an asking thing. This is more of a here's an unfortunate thing. There is no audio version. So if you are wanting to read along, you're going to have to actually read along. I suspect that this is going to have far more people that haven't read the book yet listening along than Methods of Rationality had. So there probably will be a lot more people reading along, and therefore also a lot more people wishing there was an audio version. But when I was really into this, like one of the things I kind of wanted to do was like, oh my God, I haven't done an audio project in so long. Maybe I could make an audio project of this. And obviously, since this has already been out for a long time and has a big fan base, I had to Google first if someone had already done an audio project. And so I Googled audio podcast worth the candle, and the first thing that came up was Alexander Wales saying, "I'd rather not." If someone asked him, "Can I do an audio book podcast version?" He said, "I'd really rather you didn't because I'd like to keep the audio rights." So yeah, I'm obviously not going to do one. Don't want to go against his wishes. This man has provided this awesome art for us, and there is not one available. So anyone who wants to read along is going to have to read with their eyes.
That will be a hang up for me, but I'll survive.
Yeah, I do think it's absolutely worth it. Again, I know this is aimed at me directly because Alexander Wales knows the deeper recesses of my heart and was trying to get my attention with this book. But I would sometimes start reading this like at 10:30, just because I would often read for half hour before I go to bed, maybe 45 minutes. I had to start imposing a rule on myself that I would not start reading this after a certain time, because I would often get sucked in, and then it'd be like 2, 3 a.m. and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to hate myself tomorrow. I have to go to bed now because I couldn't stop. So I think if people start reading it, a lot of them are going to not mind. I mean, they're going to mind that it's an audio, but they're going to keep reading because it's good.
Or that it's not an audio, you mean? Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy reading as well. I meant that more as a joke. And I've become just so accustomed to listening rather than reading. Like for the last year and a couple of months, I'm trying to think of a book. Oh no, I read some books, but most of the reading I did was I re-listened to the audiobooks that you did for Metropolitan Man and Methods of Rationality. Rather than read the chapters like a person with eyes, I listened to them because it was like a different experience and I could do it while doing other stuff. And it also helped that I already read them, so I didn't have to pick up on every little detail. But no, I mean, reading's tight. I did the same thing with Worm, where although I never set a rule for myself, I just kept fucking myself over where I'd be reading and then be like, oh shit, it's 1 o'clock. And oh shit, it's 2:30. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's going to be, maybe I'll be hassling you for more chapters if, I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat for like a week.
If you want to hassle me, and we can put another up how many chapters we're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously too, if it takes we're gonna have a cap somewhere about how much content we can cover reliably in the allotted time.
Right. If our listeners are reading along, we don't want to give everyone like 3-hour reading chore every week.
Well, and like I don't want to do a 5-hour episode, right? So
that too.
And I want to do the content justice. That's always and that'll be one of the fun things you get to work out, like as the person planning this out. Like, okay, how much, like, yes, there's not a lot that this isn't a large word count, but so much happens here. Or like, yeah, it's 22,000 words, but like a lot of this isn't going to, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. That stuff you'll be able to make the call on. So, all right. Well, this will be crazy. I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, me too.
All right, chapters 1 and 2, and we're recording on. Are we doing Tuesday nights?
I'm good with that. You want to do Tuesday next week, same time? Awesome.
Well, great. So I'm going to read these tonight and then be pissed that I can't read more. This will be fun. I haven't been deliberately tortured like this with the book in a long, like probably since the Methods of Rationality chapters are being slow released.
Are you planning to read them tonight?
I mean, I'll start.
Cool.
Or should I not? Because, I'll be biting my nails for 5 days.
This is entirely up to you.
We'll see how it goes.
Oh.
Yeah. This is getting a little... This is the kind of meta stuff that isn't interesting.
Yes, and I will cut this out then.
No, I mean, you can leave it in, because this is... apparently meta is a theme of the book, so... I'm just saying this is an example of meta done wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means it's not really meta at all. It's just, like... boring trivialities.
Just boring shit. Yes. Is that the cutoff? If it's interesting, it's meta.
Yes. If it's boring shit, then it's just wanking.
Like if shit, what's his name? Abed's actor name. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Daniel
Pudi.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah. So if his version of meta in Community was Daniel Pudi saying what he had for breakfast that morning,
right?
Like that would be. I mean, that would be bizarre. Maybe that could be a shtick, but
I don't think that's meta at all, though, because meta has to deal with the thing that you're talking about, whereas just what I had for breakfast this morning isn't meta. It's just a digression.
So what if like they're looking at their notes and he's like, I actually have my lines on this sheet. That would be meta.
That would be fourth wall breaky.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking forward to dissecting this difference as we go through the story.
Cool.
All right. Oh, is it first or third person? And how many like or does this is like answer this or not? This is just me asking random questions.
Yeah.
What perspective is it, and does it jump characters around?
It is first person, and the vast majority of it is just from that first person perspective. I think there's a couple times it jumps to someone else's, more than a couple times. Every now and then we'll jump to a different character's perspective, but for the most part, it's just the main character in first person.
Cool.
Yeah, which is, I think, really kind of important if you're doing first person. You can't have a lot of first persons in a novel, it feels like to me. If you're going to have a lot of POV characters that you switch between often, it's going to have to be third person.
Yeah, or reads like I watch TV. So like your library of like perspectives and thoughts on literature is like mine on television, because I've seen 1,000 bad shows and 100, hundreds of good ones, right? So
yeah,
I don't have like. So like when you're saying, if you're doing first person, you really got to stick with a couple. I'm like, okay, like that never would have occurred to me, but I'm totally willing to take your word for it.
I mean, you can pull it off if you're like really skilled or something, but yeah, it's harder. Generally shouldn't be your first go-to. If you're going to do multiple characters, don't do first person. Anyways, or you can be like me and go crazy and just have 3 different point of view types.
I think 3 is plenty, and like it worked. I've read part of What Live Streaming. Brian and I were both talking about that. We both have copies, and we're both shitty friends for not having read it yet.
No, it's fine.
No, it's not. I mean, it's fine. Like, it is what it is. But it's more just like it's right there. I'm looking at it. It sits next to my desk. It's been there for 2 years since I moved to this house. And
yeah, but I don't want anyone to like feel like a thing I've done is a chore for them.
No, it's not a chore. It's so here's my thing when it comes to reading stuff. If you were like, hey, let's do What Live Streaming, I'd have said, fuck yes, that's my excuse. I hate starting new books. And maybe that's part of the reason I don't like starting new TV shows, because like you've got to pay attention like at an extra level and like memorize a bunch of new faces and characters and plot name or plot stuff and all this and that. Where if you're watching a rerun, it's like, oh great, I've seen this, and the jokes are just comforting because I know what's coming, right? Or you pick up all little subtleties you missed the first time. But I'm like always looking for an excuse to start new stuff. So like if anyone nudges me, hey Steven, have you checked this out? I'm like, nope, but that's the nudge I needed. I'm into it.
I think that's why I often do not rewatch and reread things, because I really like the new exploration, the new seeing how someone does something, and I like learning things and figuring out what's going on. Like I really loved the first 4 episodes of WandaVision where you had no idea what was happening and we're just trying to puzzle stuff out. And like, I the one thing I regret with not rewatching things is that, like you said, upon rewatching things, you can pick up little subtleties and things that you would have never seen the first time. Methods of Rationality was a perfect example of that. There's so much you get on a reread, and I usually don't do rereads, so I can sometimes miss those. Okay,
Patreon tier reward idea. If we hit X dollars, we'll figure it out. We will release episodes of Patreon exclusive content or maybe not even so we can decide that whether it's going to be public because these people funded it, or it's going to be private because they funded it and they want to keep it to themselves. We'll do an episode per episode of WandaVision.
Oh, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, then that'd be bonus on top of this, and that could be with other people or even supporters or whatever. But like, you want to give me an excuse to talk about WandaVision, I'm fucking there. So,
I mean, I'm kind of worried about the fact that if we get to that tier support by that time, there have been 100 WandaVision analysis things out there already.
So,
well, okay, fair.
I mean that, yeah, but I'm not in any of those, so like I haven't had a chance to talk about it for an hour. Yeah, I mean, I that's true. But I mean, people put out content reviewing stuff the day after it comes out, right? Like
and we'd have to find a WandaVision virgin who hasn't seen it yet.
No, I'm not saying we necessarily have to do a WandaVision show like this. We would just do like, all right, we're gonna talk about episode 1 and like our thoughts on the episode at the time, and then now looking back, could be.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just pitching myself this idea that I love about talking about that show.
Yeah.
So, on a meta level of WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I thought was going to be a movie. And then I learned it was a TV show, and this is before I saw WandaVision. I'm like, oh, come on. And then I saw WandaVision. I'm like, oh, wait, MCU Studios or Marvel Studios knows how to do a TV show. Fuck yeah, I'm in. So, and the cool thing is a TV series takes longer to watch than a movie. So, all right, it's a win for everybody. Where's the best place to read this book?
The place that I read it is Archive of Our Own. It's commonly known as AO3. It is a place online that is actually co-run by, a number of really big people in the freedom of information movement, but co-run by Ada Palmer, who wrote the Terra Ignota series. There we go. She wrote the Terra Ignota series. She's a big free speech type person. It is basically a place online where anyone can publish anything, and they don't censor. They let you put content warnings or not as you want. It's like everything that fanfiction.net should have been come to life. It's just a great resource. But that is one place it is. It's also on...
Now, I'm assuming fanfiction.net is only for fanfiction, so this wouldn't work there anyway.
Yeah, but fanfiction.net also started doing really stupid shit. For example, you can't copy and paste off fanfiction.net now.
Oh, yeah. I mentioned that during the last... Metropolitan Man, I think.
Yeah, that's been around for years, but it's just they do a lot of stupid crap.
Yeah, that was actually. So I got around it. You can just do Control-Option-I on a Mac keyboard. I'm sure there's a Windows shortcut to open up the Chrome Inspector tools, and I just clicked where I wanted to grab, and then just grabbed straight from the HTML because I'm like, fuck you guys, I just want this quote. I'm gonna get it, and it was more out of a sense of like stubborn defiance than and it was actually more efficient than going to the other website. But all right, so I plan to do 100% of this reading on my phone. Is Archive of Our Own mobile friendly? Let's find out.
It absolutely is. You
Excellent.
can also read it at royalroad.com, which is another place that hosts a lot of online fiction for people.
And I'm assuming it's on Alexander Whale's website, too.
I believe his links to Royal Road, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I Google Worth the Candle, and the first two results are Archive of Our Own, Chapter 1, and Worth the Candle, Royal Road. So
there we go.
Which one has the prettier format? I'm just determining that for myself, and I'll tell the audience right now. Well, right now, I can't figure out how to get to the first fucking chapter on... Oh, start reading. There we go. So Royal Road is so far behind. I'm passing ads left and right. Okay, so let's look at Archive of Our Own.
Archive of Our Own has no ads.
I just have to consent to... What is this saying? They firstborn, blood type. Yes, fine. Okay. And... Huzzah! All right, yep, we're in good shape. Looks like it's going to be Archive of Our Own for me.
Cool. Royal Road has the thing that a lot of people like where you can donate directly as you're reading it, so I think that's why authors enjoy it, but it does have, advertising and all that crap.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to throw Alexander some money for this, too. I only mentioned... and I got to defend myself. I saw ads when I used it on my browser because I have an iPhone, and there's not good ad blocker built in, so...
you most need that Apple walled garden.
I was having to explain to one of my coworkers. They're like, "Why are some customers having an issue seeing this thing?" And I'm like, "Well, if they're running uBlock Origin, it's going to block a lot of shit." And I'm like, "Are you really running without an ad blocker?" And she's like, "Well, I was, but it would like impact some of the work stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, because it blocks all the annoying pop-up stuff." And this customer has like 1 million people who use their thing, or 10 million people who use their thing, and some of them are complaining. And I was like, yeah, and if they're using the Brave browser, it won't load ever. But if they're using the Brave browser, they know exactly why it won't load, and they shouldn't be complaining about it. Brave blocks everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really cool if you want a lightweight browser that I think might even block just JavaScript. It's got all the ad blockiness you want built into it. I'm sure that's not technically true for every super tech person, but for the average web browsing experience that you just don't want bogged down by 400 megabytes of ads and locally loaded JavaScript files, then it's the way to go. So,
all right, I should look into this Brave browser.
Yeah, it's cool. All right, so I'm going to look into reading on Archive of Our Own or Royal Road. I just need to make sure that was out there, and I'm sure there'll be links in the episode description. I should have just left that to them, but now people can hear it.
Oh, and I guess we should mention as well that we are going to have a channel in our Discord. We have the Base and Conspiracy Discord where we have all of our stuff that we do basically, and there's going to be a channel, both spoilers and non-spoilers, for this podcast that we're doing, which I forgot what we're calling it already. Not Everything is a Clue. For Not Everything is a Clue. If anyone wants to, ping us there, chat with us. I'm not sure chat with us really works because we're kind of busy, but we'll see what you say at any rate.
I'm currently at like 98% probability that everything is a clue, and this whole adage is just there to throw me off.
It's actually not everything is a clue.
Well, that's what you would say if you're trying not to spoil it for me. So you haven't even finished the book yet. Who knows? At the end, everything will have been a clue. So
actually, that's a good point. Maybe he's trying to throw me off too.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, we've been going for a while, and we have read 0 words so far, so at this rate, we are going to have infinity number of minutes on this show.
Yeah, we got to start somewhere, so... All right, so same time, I'm not even sure what day where this is coming out.
Yeah, let's just keep the same schedule you had for the We Want More and We Want More Superman.
Great.
Cool.
Perfect. Then, same time next week. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Okay, bye everybody.